City Talks with Ruben Abati on your number one lifestyle station, City 1051 FM. On this show, we discuss stories of political and human interest that affect us as Nigerian citizens and as members of a global human community. Today, we'll be discussing the topic Bobrisky, the trial, naira abuse and lessons. And it's a great pleasure to welcome to this program today our guest for today's discussion. He's a lawyer and principal counsel at GT Ogunye Chambers. His name is GT Ogunye. Mr. GT Ogunye was born in Ikare, Akoko, Ondo State. He attended St. Stephen's Primary School, Ikare, Victory College, Ikare, University of Benin, and the Nigerian Law School, Lagos. He was called to the Nigerian bar in 1982, following which he joined the law firm of Femi Falana Chambers, where he worked for 8 years and served as a deputy head of Chambers. In 2000, the year 2000, he established GT Ogunye Chambers, a general practice law firm that has conducted cases and continues to handle cases in all branches of law and in all the tiers of the Nigerian judiciary. Ogunye's career in legal practice has been intertwined with human rights, pro-democracy, and legal activism. He was a foremost progressive students' union leader in his university days, and following his call to the Nigerian bar, he became very active in the human rights and pro-democracy movement, which championed the struggle for the termination of military despotism in Nigeria. He was a member of the Campaign for Democracy, then a vibrant coalition of human rights and civil society organizations, which was led, respectively, by Mr. Alao Akabashorun and Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti. Ogunye was a member of the Central Committee of the CD, Campaign for Democracy, which organized and executed a series of anti-military protests that greeted the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. He was also a member of the Joint Action Committee on Nigeria, JACON, which was led by Chief Gani Fawehimi, SAN. Mr. Ogunye is a leading public interest lawyer, publicist, law reporter, legal commentator, author, and essayist. He has written hundreds of law, human rights, democracy, and development-related articles in the print media and learned journals. And he has authored 3 publications. He's married to Comfort Idika Ogunye, who is also a lawyer and also a women's rights advocate, and they are both blessed with children. Now, to the topic of the day. A federal high court in Lagos State on Friday sentenced convicted cross-dresser Idris Okuneye, popularly known as Bobrisky. Some people call him Bobotorisky, to 6 months in prison for abuse of the naira. The court did not give the cross-dresser an option of fine. Bobrisky was prosecuted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The court convicted him on April 5 following his guilty plea, but reserved sentence until April 9. The court had ordered Okuneye to be kept in the custody of the EFCC pending sentencing. However, due to federal government's declaration of April 9, April 10, and April 11 as public holidays, the case could not proceed as scheduled. On Friday, Justice Abimbola Awogboro sentenced the convict without an option of fine. The judge held that imprisonment would take effect from the date of the cross-dresser's arrest. Okuneye was taken away by EFCC operatives immediately after his sentencing. The EFCC had on April 4 filed a 6-count charge against Okuneye. The charge was bordered on naira mutilation and money laundering. He was consequently arraigned on April 5 and he pleaded guilty. Well, the story is out there. According to the EFCC, Okuneye committed the offenses on March 24, at Sekumol, Jakonde, Lekki, Lagos State, where he tampered with the cumulative sum, we were told, of 400,000 naira while dancing during a social event by spraying same. Okuneye also sprayed various tranches of money, such as 20,000 and 50,000, at various events in 2022 and 2023, according to EFCC. The offences contravene Section 21, Sub 1 of the Central Bank Act of 2007 and Section 19 of the Money Laundering Act of 2022. If you want to be part of this conversation, you can call us on 0700 1051 1051 and also leave a comment on our WhatsApp number 09099 164403 and on our social media accounts at City 1051 on Zoom, Instagram, and Facebook. And for the benefit of our listeners and viewers on Zoom and other platforms, this program is being streamed live. Now let's welcome our guest, who is going to help us unpack, discuss this very topical subject. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. GT Ogunye. Good afternoon, Mr. Ogunye.
Good afternoon.
Yes, well,
it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to join you this Saturday afternoon to discuss this subject. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Ogunye. Well, quickly, we're discussing Idris Okuneye, popularly known as Bobrisky, his conviction by a federal high court, the Court of Justice Awugboro, 6 months imprisonment. Well, that section of the law, Section 21, Sections 5 and 21 Sub 1 of the Central Bank Act, was beginning to look like dead law. But all of a sudden, we have this case, and there was another case before now, bringing it to life. Then Section 19 of the Money Laundering Act. Then Nigerians are saying, why is Bobrisky being punished for something that people do? I mean, yesterday there were parties where people were still, spraying the naira. They even have what they call a spraying gun. We have seen places in other parts of the country where you have a naira carpet. They spray money. So those people have not been convicted. They've not been arrested. So some people are saying, why Bobrisky? Why Bobrisky? If it is something that everybody is doing, and some people even say it's cultural. So why target one person? So, I mean, why is the law like that? Is that why they say the law is an ass? Charles Dickens in A Tale of Two Cities.
Now, thanks. First of all, let's start by saying that it is generally acknowledged that the law exists. And the law was made to regulate human conduct. The law, the provision, as you've rightly read, we find in Section 21 of the CBN Act. And we know generally that the CBN spends a lot of money to produce currencies. As a matter of fact, it goes outside our shores to print these currencies, sometimes with billions and billions of naira. It is therefore to be imagined. One can imagine that the CBN will do everything to protect the shelf life of that currency, so that they are not destroyed just as they are being taken out of the mint. Now, it's also generally recognized that it's almost become our culture now. Before now, and people can check this in our history, before the advent of the naira, when there were coins and there were, cowries and all that, this thing happened. It's always been with us for a long time. And so in this modern era, people can be wondering, why should the law be there at all? Just expect people to treat the naira with respect, without defacing or mutilating or squeezing it. Appeal to them, but don't have it in a code as a law that offenders will be punished. In other words, don't make it an offense. That can be a matter of debate, but the law is that there's a provision of the law that prohibits this kind of human conduct. Now, let's try to provide some context to this Bobrisky saga. Bobrisky is known for what he says he is and what he does. He's a man and is a cross-dresser in the public spaces, in the social media, everywhere. He dresses up as a woman, and he also causes occasional controversy by saying such things as, I'm on my period, I'm having menstrual pains, and all sorts of outlandish things that he says that makes people, to pay attention to him. He has a large following in social media. I think that must count for something, and so on and so forth. So everybody knows what he does. So the context here and the background, immediate background to this charge was that there was an event, a premiere, or a movie, and as usual, he dressed up like a woman and went there, and he was given an award as the best dressed woman. And of course, there was a show there, and then he sprayed some money there, and he left the place, and that generated a controversy. An artist took him on and challenged him, and it became a social media spat. And thereafter, as the Yoruba would say, "Ajekula no mo, ajekila no mo ku le mi fin," he was arrested, invited by the EFCC. He was taken to custody, he was investigated, and he was charged to court. Significantly, when he was charged to court, he pleaded guilty. So there are no long-drawn prosecution. And of course, the judge convicted him and reserved the sentencing. And after the holidays, he was sentenced to 6 months imprisonment without an option of fine. Now, a number of issues will arise for our consideration here. There's been the question of why Bobrisky. Is this selective justice? Is it a case of persecution? Was he apprehended and tried for a conduct that is so pervasive in the country that everybody does, and the law appears silent and appears blind because of something else? Has he been sent to prison now because of what he says he is and what he does, different from the actual offense that was alleged against him? The way to answer that is, one, when he was arrested, I presume that he had the services of a lawyer and was rightly advised. He admitted to committing the offense and he pleaded guilty. Therefore, it's like for somebody who has admitted to committing an offense and pleaded guilty in a court of law, there is no need second guessing why he did that and all that. He was reasonable enough to know the offense that had been alleged against him, and he claimed that he was guilty of the offense. So an offense was committed. There was an admission, and there was a prosecution, and there was a conviction. So that takes the subject immediately outside the range of whether it was being persecuted or was not being persecuted, because the subject himself has not made such an allegation. The allocutus that he put up in court was that he was a first-time offender, and he didn't know that it was such a big offense. Temper justice with mercy will not do that again. And of course, evidently, that didn't count for something because the judge imposed the maximum sentence. And we'll come to that in a moment. So we can speculate, the public can speculate, therefore, about whether it was not being persecuted for something else, whether it was not being persecuted because it was a cross-dresser, because the law allegedly has not made provision to regulate that kind of conduct, whereas many may see it as morally reprehensible. And it is because the law has not made such criminalizes that conduct, that's why you are now reaching out for this one that is so glaring and manifest. And what's even more is accepted this. People may even go as far as talking about the morality of those who are superintending over the EFCC now, the prosecuting agency. The chairman is going to be a Christian, a pastor, before he was appointed. And people could say that, oh, he's driven from that point of view and all that. There could be a lot of speculation. But the point is that this speculation wouldn't have arisen if the law had been alive before the Bobrisky incident. People still do this every time. And if you look at the footage of the offense that we're talking about, Bobrisky was seen dishing out money. He wasn't seen stamping on naira and dancing on top of it. He wasn't seen, for example, in the public space on the road, throwing money.
Okay, Chichi, if I may come in here. Yes, you have raised a point now about the court of public opinion. The court of public opinion is saying it's not only Bobrisky that is guilty. Under that section 21 of the CBN Act of 2007, some of the things that will constitute a felony, it will include selling naira. People are selling naira every day in open space. Nobody has arrested them. People are sending money bouquet, all these flower shops that we have. If you want to impress somebody, you can send a money bouquet. That's abuse of the naira. People dance or stamp on naira. In fact, some men, when they meet a beautiful woman, they take out a crisp note, they put their address on it. That's a mutilation of the naira. They write on it, they spray it, they staple it. One traditional ruler in Ogun State was given, a set of new notes, mint notes, turned into an attire, and he wore it publicly. That both the giver and the receiver of that, nothing happened to them. So please, can you educate us? The fact that the other man has committed this offense, nobody touched him, is that a defense in law? Because people are saying all of us are doing it. So why Bobrisky?
Now, Doctor, Section 21 of the CBN Act is so all-embracing, so expansively crafted or worded to include hawking the naira, stamping on it, stomping, spraying the money, defacing it, squeezing it, writing on it, making any mark on it, and even stapling it into a ribbon-like something and put it on the neck, like the traditional ruler who turned into an attire. So these are offenses that are committed every day, every time. And anti-corruption agencies, especially the FCC, that to say that it has an investigation prosecution discretion, and that perhaps he wants low-hanging fruits. He wants symbolic, prosecution that could serve as a deterrent. Therefore, he could pick and choose. The law does not expect pick and choose. The law says there's equality of all before the law. And with this conviction of Bobrisky, what that anti-corruption agency has done is now to whet the appetite of the public. So if moving forward, we do not see the EFCC then taking 10, 20, 50, 100 people to court in the next 3 months, I mean, based on existing video clips all over the social media and the offenses that may be committed today, tomorrow, day after, of course, people will be wondering, no, this is not fair. This is one-off. This is a targeted prosecution. And so it will then become more plausible in the imagination of the public that what has been done to Bobrisky was perhaps a calculated attempt, to sanction him under the, for what he was doing, not just the spraying of the naira. And if you look at it, you see that those who do this do not do it quietly. They are very loud about it. They put it in their Instagram, they put it in their social media. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. Okay. And so the EFCC cannot then say that, oh, he's not aware of that. This abounds everywhere. And so that's why I think that people are asking this question. Okay. The laws have said it's all embracing.
Two quick
Indeed, in defining what is defacing of the naira and all that, the definition section of that, section 21, it says that even if it's in the opinion of the alleged offender, that what he's doing is not, it's like a strict liability law. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what you may think, regardless of what you may say is cultural, this is what is done, you are propitiating your God, you are putting money on it, and you are pouring libation on money, the law will catch, because it's all embracing, the law will catch up with you. And so, if you have such a law that has been largely silent before now, the question people will continue to ask is, why was the law so swift in the case of Bobrisky? Okay. When he was in the middle of a controversy that had to do with the morality of appearing in the public in women's clothing and then claiming, that he was transforming to a woman, or he's already a woman, and doing all the feminine things that we may look at.
Okay. Which leads me. Okay. Hello.
And then that takes me to another inquiry, which is linked. The police have been hard to say that what the public may find offensive in what Bobrisky is doing is not a criminal offense. So it cannot be charged to court for that. Profound respect to the police that has been able to produce a senior advocate on Nigeria recently. I don't think that the police is correct. If you look at the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act of 2014, it is not, that law is not only about same-sex marriage. The law goes ahead to provide that any amorous display by persons of the same sex in public will be a criminal offense, and that upon conviction, the person may be sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. Any amorous display by members of the same sex, in public. Now, the person we're talking about on social media and elsewhere has gone beyond just cross-dressing to declare publicly, this is my friend, to be seen with a male friend, caressing the person, touching the cheeks, touching the beard, and all that. So if you look at that law, that is a criminal conduct that can be targeted. But it won't be right to then say, oh, in substitution, if he can't get this person under that law because we are not thinking, then what we need to do is to get him under this law. I think that's what people are worried about.
Yes.
But as far as the issue of defacing the naira is concerned, Section 21 of CBN, the law is so expansive, and practically many people are committing it every day.
Well, it's good. It's good you brought.
Law enforcement agencies do not appear to be doing anything serious until the Bobrisky incident and an incident before it, also involving a lady who's said to be in Hollywood or something of that nature. So it's only recently that we had this kind of,
well, which is a good development, if you ask me, because the true test of a law, a piece of law, is, its implementation. It's when you test it. So it's good that we are now testing what was also almost going to end up as dead law, like the law on bigamy. But, the point is good you raised the point about the Same-Sex Prohibition and Prevention Act of 2014, which was one of the last pieces of legislation that President Jonathan signed. But Portable has simplified it for us. I'm sure you know Portable. It causes sisterhood to brotherhood, brotherhood to sisterhood. So that's just what it is. But do you think that my Lord Justice Awogboro was a bit too harsh? Because, some people have been saying, Bobrisky, he should have been given the option of fine. People trying to decide what the discretion of the judge should be. And then people also saying that, after all, there was another case before this one, and there was the option of fine. And then, the learned judge went ahead to even ask Bobrisky in open court, are you a man? And Bobrisky confirmed that he's a man. So he or she, Mommy Lagos, confirming to all of us that he's a man. But do you think, the judge was harsh?
Now, you mentioned Portable. But I also want to bring out something, and that's why when a drum, Yoruba, they have a proverb, and they say that when a drum is sounding the pitch is so high, and the drummer is beating frenetically, that in a short while that drum may burst. I think that perhaps that's what is happening to Bobrisky, because the Portable that you mentioned, that was seeking from brotherhood to sisterhood and all that, and it became so episodically very popular with that tune. When he was triumphantly entering into Shongota axis in his Bobrisky dissing trophy, being that Mercedes car, he was spraying the crowd with naira notes on that dusty road. That act is caught by Section 21 that we're talking about. But again, investigators, law enforcement agency, prosecutor will say they have a prosecutorial discretion. So they can't be prosecuting everybody. They want to make
these same policemen that when people are spraying money at parties, they will join and be collecting the money.
And be collecting.
We have seen it now. Even the policemen should be arrested.
Yes, and if you are putting that too far, I say, what are you saying now? And somebody is showing love to the public, in his neighborhood, in the trenches, And you are now saying that that's not good. Is that a criminal offense? It's sharing with the public and all that. But I've just told us that the law is so expansively worded that it doesn't leave any room for any subjective rationalization. Once you are caught by the act, it's almost strict in court, but the law has not been largely enforced. Now, answering your question directly as to the severity of the punishment, allegedly, let's start by saying one. A judge in sentencing could be mandated by law to impose a specific sentence, in which case he doesn't have a sentencing discretion. Some provisions may be worded in such a way that there is a sentencing range from a statutory minimum to a statutory maximum. In that section, 6 months is the punishment, with or without an option of fine. The judge, in exercising his discretion, could say, look, I have the power to reach for the maximum sentence without an option of fine. So that is a discretion he had exercised judicially and judiciously. However, given our public policy and our judicial policy on preference for non-custodial punishment to decongest our prisons and not to unduly criminalize those who commit simple offenses by giving them maximum punishment under the law. The same law has provided for options, alternatives, even outside the specific provision we are talking about. And it is good on this occasion. EFCC is a federal anti-corruption agency. The criminal procedure law it was using is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. And the court before whom he was being prosecuted was a federal high court. So the law we have to look to for guidance is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. If you look at the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, and I've written about this before.
AJA 2015.
Yes, 2015.
Yes.
You will see provisions like Section 454, subsection 1 and 2, Section 460, subsection 1 to 4, and so on and so forth. And these provisions govern non-custodial punishment, community service punishment, suspended sentence. You know, all these are provided for in the Administration of Criminal Justice Act. For example, Section 454, 1 and 2 provides that where a defendant is charged before a court with an offense punishable by law, and the court thinks that the charge is proved, but is of the opinion that having regard to A, the character, antecedent, age, health, or mental condition of the defendant charged, B, the trivial nature of the offense, or C, the extenuating circumstances under which the offense was committed, it is inexpedient to inflict a punishment or any other than a normal punishment, or that it is expedient to release the defendant on probation, the court may, without proceeding to conviction, make an order specified in subsection 1. So the law is so it introduced probation, it introduced suspended sentence, introduced community services to our law, and that law is still there. So in this case, when a criminal defendant came, when he was invited by the EFCC, he was not forcibly arrested. They said he came, he honored their invitation. They investigated him. They showed him the video. He admitted. He was charged to court. He pleaded guilty. these are extenuating circumstances for a first offender. But as I said earlier, Bobrisky's drum was sounding too high. And so it had to be bust one way or the other. And so the judge there reached for the maximum sentence and all, even when these provisions are there.
Okay.
But as I said, the judge has a sentencing discretion, and the judge will say, and the EFCC will say that the judge has applied the law according to justice of the matter.
Okay, a couple of things, Mr. Ogunye, because we still need to allow, our listeners and persons who have joined us virtually to also put in a word. One, Bobrisky's lawyers, can go on appeal. I'm sure they still have that option. But secondly, what is the future for Bobrisky, in your opinion? And what lessons do you think that Nigerians can learn from all of this? And I like the point you made about we are watching EFCC whether they will go after other people, particularly politicians who are also spraying money. There's a video in circulation, of some politicians spraying money. And they say they are politicians. Shouldn't they also know the law? So, but Bobrisky has, risked himself into, correctional center now. But we should look at all these other dimensions. What's the future for him and what lessons?
Now, a number of lessons, and I'll be very brief, eclectic in fashion. One, there's the Latin maxim with which you are familiar, Doctor. Ignorantia facti excusat, ignorantia jure non excusat.
Ignorance
of the law is not an excuse.
Yeah.
So, yes, a number of people may say they didn't know that this is the law, but now, with the Bobrisky incident, I think that a great number of people on social media now know that this is the law. And so, the first lesson is that our people must take heed now and then, try to comply with the law. That's the first lesson. The second issue here is that let's be realistic and pragmatic here. I've said that the law as I see it, virtually everybody will be caught. For example,
recording stopped.
If somebody at the party should have a bundle of naira notes and KSA, all the respected musicians are playing, and the person then, throw that bundle of naira to the person, that will be caught by the law. So, for those who are insisting that this is a cultural matter and all that, are there ways in which they can sponsor a bill to look at that section of the law again and say, relax it? It's too stringent. Virtually every conduct is as it. But if you have blatant cases of somebody sewing a cloth with naira or somebody signing signature on a naira, yes, you can arrest those persons. But these little things, particularly, a community of interest may gather. All the Owambe parties in Nigeria, all the musicians who say, this will affect our trade. That means we no longer, they can sponsor a bill, a private member bill, and say, please take it to, they can get the senator elected and say, a quest for show. Please take this to the National Assembly and have this section and all that. That would be a way of a feedback. Number 3, I think that the FCC now has a duty, because it has imposed on itself this duty, that apart from now chasing Yahoo people and chasing politically exposed persons who may be guilty of corruption, they can't say that these are trivial matters. How do you expect us to be going all over the country to be arresting those who may be spraying naira? With the Bobrisky precedent now, they've imposed a duty on themselves to buckle up and then, enforce this law rigorously and vigorously. Whether they'll be able to do that, we'll see as in the coming days. The number 4 thing is that, for criminal defendants who are guilty plea averse, who do not want to ever accept blame, I think that they should take the lesson that this is an isolated incident. Because I can wonder that some people may say, why did he even plead guilty? Why didn't he, fought the thing? Why didn't he dance around the thing? Why can't he come to court and say that, this video was doctored? That was not what it was before, and complicate the matter. they will have to take the lesson that, look, it still pays for you to admit guilt and then earn some credit in the prosecution and adjudication process. Because the Judas reciprocates that, the prosecutorial resources are not being wasted on you and all that, you pleaded guilty, and so that should count for something in sentencing and all that. And then they shouldn't look at this as, you pleaded guilty, see where he's found himself now. I won't ever plead guilty. So we want them to learn a lesson that, this is an isolated incident. They still earn some credit for pleading guilty. And so if there are problems, they should plead guilty and vindicate the law. The number 5 issue here, for me, is the issue of the society. The issue of not spraying money is it's not just a matter of law or violation. It's also about a society that is going through, hardship. And then in that same society, you then see people, exhibiting stupendous wealth, spraying bundle of naira and all that. In this society, we've heard of people who bury their parents in vehicles, in cars, as a coffin. All kind of things happen in this kind of society. And so it will be good for people to take the lesson that it's not just because the law has prohibited it or that the person may go to prison. It's also about our own public morality. It's about the offensive display of wealth in a society that's going through hardship. And I think that there could be more lessons, but I think that these are the issues.
But I wanted you to touch briefly, now that I see on the screen, reactions from people listening to us. Personal lesson for Bobrisky. Bobrisky is very active on social media. Do you have something to say to all these people who live their lives on social media and expose themselves to risk by the way they advertise their personal lives?
The lesson, I think that perhaps seclusion, confinement, particularly when it's not solitary and it's punitive, when it's not solitary and punitive, may provide a moment of reflection and introspection. When one is away from the razzmatazz of social media and all the lies and all the display of wealth and all that, some of which are not real that you have there, you have the time to reflect. And so I think that Bobrisky should look at himself and say, okay, I've been doing this thing for years now. Even when the social media is not being developed, when you are still doing chat and all that, over a decade now, is this what I want to continue to do for the rest of my life? Or I've had some money now I want to go and do, other things and all that. I've gained renown or notoriety, depending on the way you look at it. But is there something I can channel this to so that I won't run the risk of being clobbered by everybody and being attacked by everybody and all that? I think that he owes himself a duty, a personal duty, to self-reflect and look at that. The second aspect of that is that, look, all these things that they do is social media will have backlash. Even the popular media, we've seen that. And we don't want to mention, we've seen people make personal examples of themselves and then it backfires on the marital side. So not to talk of people who daily live on the social media and do all these things every day and talk about how stupendously wealthy they are, which is arrant nonsense. The really wealthy people in our society, apart from the leaks, if you could call these leaks, that Forbes provide, don't come out to boast about how wealthy they are. And we don't want to mention their names in this society. I mean, owners of refinery and everything, don't come out on the social media and say, you know what? I'm so wealthy. I've made my first $1 trillion. They don't say that. So I think that those who have taken to the social media thinking that he's provided a job. They have followers. You can have 5 million followers. Bobrisky has allegedly 5 million, 10 million followers. Nobody is following him to prison now. And followers don't do that kind of thing. So they are not like the proverbial fly that follows the dead corpse to the grave. No, they don't do that. Once they get to the edge of the grave, they perch and turn by and say, bye-bye, we can't go with you to this grave. So I think that this lesson should be taken very seriously by those concerned, and then they can live a better, and more acceptable and more decorous life moving forward.
Okay, GT, let's take some reactions. I see Said Barua here. He says, good afternoon, Dr. Abati and Barrister Ogunye. I want to believe that the authorities just want to stylishly deal with Bobrisky, knowing fully well that there is no law under which he can be prosecuted for being a cross-dresser. Well, you had clarified that the same-sex act addresses that. The offense of the abuse of naira is being committed from all and sundry, high and low. They just want to beat him into line. Said Barua, that's his intervention. And then on the laptop here, what do we have now? Okay, I'm looking for the name. Okay, this is from UK saying, please, Barrister GT, was Bobrisky right to have pleaded guilty? And then Engineer Deniji says, I'm truly enjoying Ogunye's submission. Legal, realistic, and to an extent academic. The judge exercises his discretion in the administration of this criminal justice. I want to believe, without any prejudice, that the judge is not thrilled or impressed with Bobrisky's conduct. Just a moment. In the public, as a bad model to the youths and indeed the society. In any case, as rightly pointed out, Bobrisky's drum was sounding too loud and in high pitch, so was sure going to tear or break, as the case may be. Then we have this caller on the line. That was Engineer Deniji responding to Ogunye's submissions. Hello.
A very good afternoon, Dr. Ruben.
Good afternoon. That should be Dr. Moses.
Yes. Your guest is still say good afternoon to you. And my name is Prince Wyatt, calling from Amward office. You see, doctor, the way this man dressed like a woman, if there's no law that can punish him, because we in Nigeria today, the two dominant religion, that's Christianity and Islam, forbidding for a man to dress like a woman, to the extent, change your face, change your everything, to look like a woman. At the end of the day, the man now tell the judge, are you a woman or a man? He say, I'm a man. A good parent, a disciplinary parent, will be happy with the judge. And when you talk to the Naria, that is apart. If I were in the same shoe with that judge, I will do the same thing. Because optional, you can pay fine of 50,000 naira. If it's 50 naira, we see somebody from the back and just put it in the pocket and pay 50,000 naira. But that's 6 months, 8 chance. Maybe they will reform him. When he come back to the prison yard, he will be reformed. And he call himself a man, he should dress like a man. If they did not give this as an example for others, I'm telling you, some parents, some children will behave like him. They are spoiling the country. So for me, I'm happy with the judgment. May God bless that judge. As a good father, the disciplinary father who want his children to be in a good, patriotic Nigeria who fear God Almighty. God created you. And now you are not regretting your God. You are not telling God that God not create you well. He's supposed to be a woman, he create you as a man. He is challenging God Almighty. So for me, I'm happy with his judgment. Good afternoon to my dearest doctor.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prince YS from Amu World Offense. So, GT Ogunye, you've heard from Prince YS, from Said Barowa, from Engineer Deniji and Omo UK. If you could just respond briefly to those 4 interventions. We take 1 or 2 more and then we close the program.
Hello, Dr. Abasi.
Okay, yes. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Yes.
Dr. Moses.
Yes, Dr. Moses, yes.
There's going to be the internal squabble of morality versus legality in any human society. Just to give the dog a bad name, I won't mention his name now, whether it's a he or she, I guess it's just been nailed. As you said, whether it's a Benny. It's unfortunate that he's turned to be so degrading all by himself. That is bad luck. But mine is just about the hypocrisy of the law that bans spraying of money and go. We are a human society. GTA has suggested maybe some people should just go to the National Assembly to reverse the law. It doesn't like that. Tell me, Dr. Abati, you're a Yoruba man, and I know you guys will go one day that you have not spent money before. I dare the Judicial, who is not equally bad when it comes to the pocket size, that is not sprayed. It's our nature. It's like a football when it's called, and you are so excited, you remove your jersey, and they don't want useless law that will get you a yellow card. Something are just spontaneous. We can deceive ourselves all we want. For politicians, they are everywhere spraying money. But we won't show disdain. I don't support you stepping on the naira. I think that's going too far. But spraying it, I don't believe it that issue warrants any law. Where do this means? Where do they come from? I hardly handle means any day of the week. But go to parties, you will surely see new news. The banks are complicit. They're complicit. So let us treat the real sign, not the symptoms. We only deceive ourselves. When we are quick to judge this young man, yes, he deserves whatever he gets. But it will take like 10 years to judge someone like an SLA whose cash front led to the untimely death of Benny. That's when I get just simply hypocritical. And I don't get it. It's so easy to pass a verdict on a man that has gone astray morally. But a man that has legal issue that was complicit in the death of many people because of his evil cash crunch, that one will take the next eternity to decide where his face is. I agree with you. Good afternoon.
Hey, Dr. Moses, thank you. Well, GT Oguye, Dr. Moses has just raised an interesting point about morality versus legality. I know in jurisprudence, we're reminded that, law is not morality, even if there are moral issues that come up. And then he talked about hypocrisy, that we're just treating symptoms. Yeah, there are persons who have, like Chidi Odinkalo, who had expressed the view also that the matter was treated expeditiously. And yet you say that the wheel of justice grinds slowly in this country. But when it came to Bobrisky, the wheel of justice was moving at supersonic speed. And the matter was dealt with immediately. But you can address all those issues. He talked about hypocrisy and what the other 4 persons before him raised. Back to you.
Yes, the law, justice delivery in this case was very expeditious. But that was not only because of the prosecutorial strength of the EFCC or the strength of their investigation. It depended largely on the disposition of the criminal defendants. As I said earlier, Bobrisky cooperated fully with the investigators. He surrendered himself. He admitted in his statement that was him. He was spraying money, and he pleaded guilty. So it was fast-tracked. If he had not pleaded guilty, the prosecution would have had to prove his case. They will play that digital video. All the people who are there, who are eyewitnesses, perhaps will come. Some of them will say no, they can't come. Some, including the musician who was playing, will come and say no, he didn't spray money on me, and so on and so forth. And the thing will be long drawn. And that was why I was remarking that perhaps his conduct should have been reflected in the kind of sentence that he got, albeit the judge had the discretion to sentence in the way and manner he had sentenced. Yes, hypocrisy. I've said that there is a clash here. A clash between what is popular and is going to the extreme now and what the law prohibits. The CBN Act prohibits the defacement of the naira, I said that a lot of money is spent on producing the naira. Some of these currencies are produced outside the country. And so they want to protect the naira. But our people, it's now become a culture, either at weddings, traditional weddings, or naming ceremony. They want to exchange money physically. They want to give people money. They want to give them presents. And I think that that's what has, ballooned into the ugliness that we see now, that we all are condemned. But as I said, we have to look at this law again. As a matter of fact, I was reflecting just before we came to the studio for this show, that in some of the clips that we have, for example, including the one involving this portable, not the one I referred to earlier, when he was coming up with the Zazu at the Koi Hotel, whiskey, to a savage and all that. Some of them spend money on him, not naira, dollars. So the question is, since it is the mutilation of the naira that the CBN prohibits, so can the EFCC proceed against somebody who is spending dollars as spraying, as distinct from prosecuting them for spending, foreign currencies, in Nigeria? So, I mean, this has so many dimensions. And I think that we may need to look at this law again, to refine it and then make it, stringent, but the compass will be so narrow, so that this all-embracing thing of don't spend money, don't give money out, don't do this, regardless of your subjective thinking or justification, you are caught, because the law is a strict liability law. So I agree, we may need to look at that. And finally, I think that even from the contributions of interveners and commentators today, there is a popular belief that, yes, what Bobrisky was doing was bad, so he had to be dealt with. Even those who have written their contribution, you have to be dealt with. And this is not an unreasonable contribution. That's how they feel it should be. However, the criminal conduct that was charged is not about Bobrisky's cross-dressing or amorous behavior or exhibition of amorous conduct by same-sex persons in public. He was charged specifically for spraying the naira and for defacing the naira, in that process. Mints are up all over the country. That may not be defacement, but it is also prohibited by that section 21. Where do they get these mints? Who give them the mints? Bankers, perhaps mints from the CBN itself. So all these are prohibited by that law. But are we seeing people being prosecuted now for hawking meat, for selling meat? No, hardly do we see them. So we will need to, be faithful in enforcement of the law, because, as I said earlier, there's equality of all before the law.
Well, on that note, I would like to thank you very much, GT Ogunye, for taking time out to join us on this program today to discuss a subject that is topical and that should provide lessons, as you have pointed out, for Nigerians. Now, in February, it was Oluwadarasimi Omosheyin who was convicted by the Court of Justice Aneke. But Justice Aneke, in that particular case, gave the option of fine. I think, was it 250,000 naira? Was it 250? Whatever. There was an option of fine in that case. And Simi Gold, as that actress, is popularly known, first pleaded not guilty. She changed her plea to guilty. But of course, that conviction and the option of fine was given in that case. And now, in April, we have the case of Idris Okuneye, popularly known as Bobrisky, he or she, Mummy of Lagos, as he's also known, also being convicted. In his own case, no option of fine. So people should just watch it. There are lessons in both cases for all of us. But I go away, major takeaway, with a point made by our guest that, okay, how about people who make their business from, being sprayed at parties, like musicians, like some other people who show up at party events, whether it's a wedding or housewarming. But, well, in the last 2 days, I've noticed that now people, they carry bowls. They will keep a box somewhere. If you want to spray there, you put the money in the box or the bowl. So maybe at the end of all of this, the major lesson that all of us will learn is how to treat the naira with respect that it deserves. Well, I'd like to thank all of you who called in and those who reach out to us on Zoom and Facebook. Remember, the conversation does not end here. You can reach out to me on my social media account at Abati1990 on Instagram, and also to the station at City1051 on all social media platforms. And for those of you who tuned in late, there's no need to worry. You can visit our YouTube page, City1051, to watch the entire show. And don't forget, when you do so, to hit the subscribe button and leave comments. And don't forget also to tune in next week at 12 noon for another exciting edition of City Talks. My name is Ruben Abati. The show was produced by Charles Flames, Oluwaseun Adetitun, Ayodamola Oludara, Oluwatobiloba Samson, and Abiodun Odunton. The executive producer is Adedoja Hallen. Have a great weekend. Bye for now.